It's Local Edition. Brad Pomerance here in Sacramento. We are joined today by Tom Steyer. He is the president and founder of NextGen California, and I know he and his organization is celebrating with the recent passage of SB 32 or the AB 32 Extension. Talk to us about that. It was not a short thing, sir.
Well, California has a long history of leading in terms of having progressive energy legislation. I mean, it goes back to the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act and building codes. So that's since 1970. So this is the extension of Assembly Bill.
But what's
32.
Interesting about Californians, I feel, is we have this schizophrenia. On the one hand, we are as green as they come. We pass legislation, we vote for legislation to support our green, mountains, our blue coast. But then we have this anti-regulatory streak in us as well. And so those can collide. It seems as if the anti-regulatory streak will fall a bit, green wins, but talk to me about that dichotomy.
Well, I think it's really important that as we do progressive energy legislation, we make sure that it takes care of the people of California at the same time.
Okay.
So that we do it in a way that creates good jobs for people around the state, including in communities where they're having trouble and they have high unemployment rates. It's really important that we do it in a way that cleans our air and cleans our water so that people who live and work in places where the air is bad and we have high asthma rates, that this specifically impacts them. I was talking today, the Coachella Valley, 6 out of 10 of the kids have asthma. It's really important that as we pass progressive energy legislation, that it benefits in terms of clean air, clean water, and good jobs for California.
But part of AB 32 as well, sir, focuses on what's known as the cap and trade auction. And we've had 2 recently that have not gone well. Now, I don't know if that means that AB 32 is not succeeding, but it is something to note. What does it say to you?
Well, when you pass legislation like cap and trade, people need to know that it's in place for a long period of time.
Okay.
That's why the extension is so important.
Ah.
One of the things that I learned from George Shultz, who's a very prominent Republican and was
Secretary of State.
Right, was legislation has to go out for the foreseeable future so people change their plans based on that framework.
But why is it in your mind that with the early cap and trade auctions, they came out with a bang, incredibly successful, and then without warning, we've had these 2 that somehow fell flat? Do you think it's because of what you just said?
I think people weren't sure of where we were going.
Interesting.
And I think that's why the extension was really important, because AB 32 needed to be extended before 2020.
Right.
This is 2016. So people started to see, wow, what's going to happen? It is really important that as we go forward, people understand this is the framework.
Right.
This is what we have. We're going with this system, and you should run your life and your business according to that.
I want to talk about 2016 and the election in 2016. You have been very vocal during this election cycle. We've seen your advertisements focusing both on voter reg as well as Mr. Trump. And I want to start with your views about Mr. Trump. We've seen what you think, but give us a sense as to why you have become so involved and really put yourself on the line to oppose the Trump candidacy.
I just think that Mr. Trump stands exactly opposite the deepest American and Californian values. I think that his willingness to say things about Californian citizens, whether they be immigrants, whether they be of a different religion, whether they come from a specific country, that he's willing to denigrate them openly is shockingly anti-American, is exactly opposite to what I think of California being a very diverse place, majority-minority state, where basically we think that our strength is the fact that we are diverse and that we work together and we try and make it work for everybody. That is absolutely contrary to the deepest American beliefs and the deepest beliefs of the people in this state, and you have to stand up and fight it.
I hear you, and a lot of people hear you, and a lot of people agree with you. At the same time, there is something that he's tapping into, which is a frustration, an anger, a fear, and let's just, for argument's sake, agree with everything you're saying. How do we also address those folks who do feel left out, be it because of trade or changing demography or a 21st century economy?
Look, if you look at the 2016 political landscape, there were two people who unexpectedly popped up. One was Donald Trump,
Right.
and one was Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont. And both of them were talking in their own ways about inequality and the fact that the majority of Americans haven't had a raise for 25 years.
Right.
That they're watching the country grow, the median, the average grow, but it's completely disproportionately given out. And so they're talking to people who are very scared about their own future, very scared about their children's future, and they don't know where to go, but they feel as if the system is not listening to them, is not dealing with their needs, their fears, and their hopes.
So what can the establishment, Democratic or Republican, do to address those fears in your mind? It's a broad question, but I do think that whether one agrees or disagrees with Trump's tactics, it's his supporters. They're still Americans. They may be vocalizing views that are, antithetical to what some believe are American values, but they're still part of our fabric.
Well, what I would say is this. He is addressing real frustrations and real fears, but he's doing it in the worst possible way. He is appealing to people's worst instincts. The fact of the matter is, people with elected officials, people who are making these decisions, need to be looking at their decisions through that lens of knowing we have an inequality in the United States that's historic, that is very bad for our democracy and is inherently unjust. And it is important that as we think about a broad variety of issues, whether it be education, housing, transportation, incarceration, we need to be thinking about it through that lens to make sure that as we make decisions, just the way I'm saying in energy, that it is taking into account the needs and aspirations of working people and communities that feel as if they've been left behind, to make sure that they are directly addressed in the short term and going forward.
You also, this cycle, are focusing on increasing voter registration. Apparently you and those like you are succeeding, especially in California. Why do you think we've seen this success?
Well, first of all, there are 7 million unregistered California citizens. So there's a
still a way to go.
gigantic group of people. That's bigger than most states. So there's a bunch of people who are not part of the active political system. And in particular, those tend to be young people and people of color.
Right.
And we have felt from the beginning that the broadest democracy with the most participation not only is the fairest, but also will get us the best decisions. I think this year, when you look at, I think honestly, when you look at the national scene, there are a lot of people in California, like me, who feel that what Mr. Trump has to say is absolutely antithetical to their values, and that it's important that they register and participate to stand up against them. That's what people can do.
So,
vote against them.
In our final moments, let us presume that these folks do vote in November. We'll presume that Mrs. Clinton is victorious, just for argument's sake. But then we have 2018. And if it's a duplication of 2014, these folks don't come back and vote. How do we keep these new registrants engaged?
So let's talk about that for a second. Because first of all, if we register a significant, which we're trying really hard with in partnership with tons of people in California, to register as many people as possible, we have a different group of potential voters in 2018 than we did in 2014. Secondly, in 2014, people didn't show up specifically. Democrats showed up at historically low percentages because they did not feel as if the system was responding to them. So it's really important when I said every decision has to be made through the lens of how is this going to help people in the short run in terms of employment in their community, in terms of what you get paid to do the work, in terms of the health of their children, in terms of the success of the schools that their kids go to. Every one of those decisions has to say so people can see my vote matters It made my life better. It made my kids' life better. I need to show up to make sure that keeps happening.
His name is Tom Steyer. He is the president and founder of NextGen California. My name is Brad Pomerance. You're joining us on Local Edition.